He thought Christmas would prove he'd moved on, until she appeared, cradling a newborn in her arms. In that instant, everything he believed about love, loss, and second chances shattered. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Ms. Love Stories channel, the place where love, drama, and unforgettable moments come alive. I'm so thrilled you're here, ready to dive into stories that will make your heart race, bring tears, and leave you believing in the power of love. Before we begin, I want to get to know all of you. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from, because in the next video, I'll give a special shout out to some of you amazing viewers from around the world. I can't wait to see how far our love story family reaches. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, so you never miss a single emotional journey. Get ready to feel, laugh, cry, and fall in love all over again, because every story we share here is for you. Now, the story begins. Rose. The winter air outside the towering glass windows of Leo's penthouse cut sharply, carrying the scent of pine wreaths and city smoke. Leo adjusted the cuff of his tailored suit, his jaw tight, eyes scanning the room full of glittering Christmas lights and perfectly wrapped gifts. Everything was meticulously perfect, the kind of perfection that screamed control. And yet he felt hollow. He had invited Rachel, his ex, to Christmas dinner. Not because he wanted her there. No, he wanted her to see him thriving, moving on. His reputation, his wealth, his life, all polished to a blinding sheen. He had convinced himself this act would be cathartic. But as he poured another glass of champagne, a part of him, the part he rarely acknowledged, tightened in anticipation. Across the city, Rachel walked through the snow-dusted streets, clutching a small, swaddled bundle close to her chest. Every footstep reminded her of what she had lost, and what she had gained. Her life had changed in ways Leo would never imagine. Her heart still ached, yes, but it beat now with the warmth of new life, and a fierce, unspoken hope. She thought about the invitation she had reluctantly accepted. Curiosity? Closure? Or perhaps the unacknowledged part of her that still remembered the late-night laughs, the whispered promises, the love they had shared? She shook her head, forcing the thoughts away. Tonight wasn't about nostalgia. It was about facing reality, whatever that meant. Meanwhile, Leo adjusted his tie again, his reflection in the mirror staring back at him like a stranger. A part of him, the part that remembered Rachel's laughter, the softness of her hand in his, recoiled at the idea of seeing her. But control, after all, was everything to him. He would maintain it. He had to. Snowflakes clung to Rachel's coat as she approached the grand doors of Leo's building. She paused, inhaling sharply, feeling the weight of the night settle around her. Inside, the world would not be the same. One arrival, one unexpected presence, and everything Leo thought he had mastered would crumble in a heartbeat. Have you ever faced someone from your past and didn't know how to react? Comment below your experience. A soft chime echoed as the elevator doors opened. Leo's heart didn't skip, at least he told himself it didn't. But there was a tremor he couldn't suppress. The night, the lights, the carefully constructed perfection. It was all about to collide with reality. The dining room glimmered with golden candlelight, the table set for 12 though only a few would arrive. Crystal glasses caught the flickering flames, sending tiny rainbows across the polished mahogany. Every detail was flawless, exactly how Leo liked it. But tonight he noticed none of it. He couldn't. His mind kept drifting to her. Leo paced the length of the room, the soft tap of his expensive shoes on the marble floor echoing in the quiet apartment. He told himself he was ready. He wasn't. Ready would mean he didn't feel the sharp twist in his chest when he imagined her smile, or the warmth of her hand brushing his. He was a man of control. Yet control was slipping like fine sand through his fingers. Meanwhile, Rachel paused on the curb outside the building, the swaddle in her arms a delicate weight against her chest. The newborn's tiny fingers curled against her coat, reminding her of what truly mattered. She drew a shuddering breath, the chill air burning her lungs, and steeled herself. This was not a reunion, not a moment for old wounds to reopen. But she couldn't deny the flicker of something she hadn't felt in years. A complicated, dangerous mix of curiosity and lingering affection. Inside, Leo poured a second glass of wine, running his hand along the back of a chair, trying to ground himself. Memories hit him uninvited. The way Rachel's laughter had once filled the quiet of this apartment, the long nights of whispered secrets, promises that seemed eternal at the time. A hollow ache settled in his chest. He had told himself he had moved on, that he was free of the past, but had he truly? The soft hum of the elevator broke through the silence, subtle yet sharp enough to jolt him. He paused mid-step, a prickle of unease traveling down his spine. The moment was near. Rachel's heels clicked softly against the marble floor as she stepped into the grand lobby. Her coat dusted with snow, the baby tucked safely against her. She felt a mix of dread and anticipation. Every instinct screamed that she should turn and leave, yet her feet moved forward. Some unspoken force drew her in, a mixture of responsibility, unfinished business, and something neither of them had named in years. She glanced up at the grand chandelier reflecting 1,000 points of light and whispered softly, almost to herself, "Here goes nothing." At the same time, Leo straightened his shoulders, lifting his chin, trying to summon the composure of a man untouched by sentiment. But the fluttering in his chest betrayed him. The moment was coming. The collision of past and present was inevitable. Have you ever returned to a moment you thought you were ready for, only to realize nothing was truly resolved? Share your thoughts below. A sudden, quiet chime from the elevator signaled arrival. Both hearts, though worlds apart in their separate spaces, skipped in anticipation. Neither knew yet how drastically life would change in the next few moments. The elevator doors opened with a soft, almost reluctant sigh, and Rachel stepped into the warmth of the penthouse. The scent of pine cinnamon and expensive wine mingled with the faint undertone of Leo's cologne. A scent she had once memorized, one that had haunted her dreams for years. She adjusted the blanket around the baby, the tiny bundle shifting and stirring in her arms. Its little yawn was innocent, unaware of the storm about to unfold. Leo's eyes lifted at that moment, drawn to the sound of soft footsteps on the marble. His breath caught, not because he had expected her to appear, but because of what she carried. For a split second, the room, the lights, the meticulously arranged holiday decorations, all of it, faded into irrelevance. There she was, the woman who had once held his heart like fragile glass, and in her arms a baby. Time slowed. The clinking of crystal glasses, the gentle hum of the chandelier, even the faint hiss of the city outside seemed to fade into a muted echo. Leo's jaw tightened, a tremor running through him that he refused to acknowledge. The air felt heavier, charged. 1,000 thoughts collided in his mind, yet none found a way out. Shock, disbelief, a stabbing pang of regret. He could barely breathe. Rachel's eyes met his, calm but guarded. Her lips pressed together, and she gave a faint, polite nod. The kind one offers to someone who has hurt you deeply but still deserves acknowledgement. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The baby stirred again, tiny fingers curling around her coat, pulling at her sleeve. And in that gesture, the quiet assertion of life and love, Leo saw a truth he hadn't anticipated. Everything he had built, every ounce of control and pride, could not shield him from this moment. He stepped forward, voice tight, measured, trying to sound composed. "Rachel." Her eyes held his, steady, and for a heartbeat, the room felt suspended between past and present. She shook her head slightly, almost imperceptibly, as if saying, "Some things cannot be explained in words." Then, soft yet deliberate, she lifted the blanket slightly, revealing the baby's face. Leo froze. His control, his carefully curated armor of wealth and pride faltered. The baby's tiny eyes, wide, innocent and unknowing, met his own. A strange warmth spread through him, unexpected and unwelcome, intertwining with a gnawing ache he had buried long ago. "His name is Noah," Rachel said quietly, almost apologetically, her voice carrying the weight of years of unspoken truths. "He's your son." The words landed like a physical blow. Leo felt as though the air had been stolen from his lungs. Every carefully crafted narrative of moving on, of proving he had survived heartbreak without her, dissolved in an instant. The room tilted slightly, the chandelier swaying in his blurred vision. He wanted to speak, to demand answers, to lash out, but the voice caught in his throat. Instead, he simply stared, trying to reconcile the man before him with the boy in her arms. The past, the regrets, the love, the anger, all of it crashed together in a chaotic storm. Rachel took a cautious step forward, just enough to bridge the space between them without breaking it entirely. "I didn't plan to come like this," she said softly, the baby stirring again. "But you needed to know. And I couldn't hide him from you anymore." Leo swallowed, the lump in his throat making words impossible. Instead, he raised a trembling hand, almost instinctively, and let it hover near the baby. His heart hammered, an involuntary plea. "Tell me I can still be a part of this life." For a long, tense moment, silence reigned. The baby's tiny hand reached up, brushing against Leo's fingers. In that small touch, a bridge formed between the past and the present, a connection deeper than pride or fear. And yet, fear remained. The fear of vulnerability, the fear of being rejected, the fear of love's second chance. The room seemed impossibly small now. The festive lights dimmed by the weight of unspoken emotions. The snow outside fell silently, each flake a witness to the collision of hearts. Leo's chest ached, his hands clenched at his sides, then slowly unclenched. He wanted to speak, but all he could do was breathe and feel. Rachel studied him carefully, noting the tension, the pain, and the buried longing that mirrored her own. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The baby's gaze alone carried a silent plea. For understanding, for connection, for acceptance. And in that moment, Leo realized that moving on had been an illusion. Life had a way of forcing truth upon even the most guarded hearts. He had built walls of wealth, of pride, of control. But the unexpected arrival of this child, this living reminder of their shared past, tore them down in an instant. If you were in Leo's shoes, would you welcome this new life or turn away? Comment below what you would do. The air between them thickened with anticipation. A single choice, a single step, could either reunite them or drive them apart forever. And though neither spoke the words aloud, both understood. Tonight, nothing would ever be the same. The room felt impossibly quiet after the initial shock. Leo's fingers lingered near the baby for a heartbeat too long, then retracted, as if touching him could somehow unravel the fragile veneer of control he clung to. He stepped back, swallowing hard, forcing himself to breathe evenly. Pride, stubbornness, and fear collided in his chest like storm clouds threatening to break. This is a lot to process," he said finally, his voice low, measured, but taut with tension. I need a moment." Rachel's eyes, calm yet alert, met his. She nodded, but the baby squirmed in her arms, sensing the tension like a tiny, instinctual antenna. "I understand," she said softly, her words careful, measured. But inside, her heart pounded with frustration. She had spent years alone, navigating motherhood, carrying this secret, and now here he was, the man who had once left her heart in pieces, acting as though his world had only just shifted. Leo moved toward the balcony, hands pressed to the glass, staring out at the snow-blanketed city below. He had imagined this day countless times, but never like this, not with a living, breathing reminder of their past in her arms. His mind raced, 1,000 scenarios colliding violently. Anger, confusion, guilt, longing. They all clawed at him at once. He wanted to lash out, to demand answers, but fear held him silent. Fear of failure. Fear of vulnerability. Fear that opening his heart would only lead to more pain. Rachel sank into a nearby chair, the baby resting gently against her chest. She whispered softly to him, "Shoo, it's okay, we'll figure it out." Her voice was calm for the child, but inside, she felt a storm of emotion, love, fear, and a lingering resentment toward Leo for leaving her life so abruptly years ago. She had built her world carefully, relying on herself and this tiny life she had nurtured alone. And now here he was, intruding with his wealth, charm, and the unspoken history between them. The silence stretched, heavy, loaded with unspoken accusations. Leo finally spoke, his voice quieter this time, almost to himself. "I never knew. I never had a clue." His words were true, but Rachel knew the truth cut deeper than denial. She had wanted him to care, to notice, to be present. But he hadn't. And now, years later, he stood there, shocked, as if life owed him understanding. "I didn't expect you to," she replied, a thin smile tugging at her lips. "You weren't there when it mattered." Her words were gentle, but beneath them lay a quiet steel. She wasn't going to let old wounds be trampled. Not now, not ever. Leo turned slightly, as if physically turning away could help him escape the surge of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. I've moved on. You know that. This changes nothing. Rachel's laugh was soft, bitter, almost incredulous. Nothing? Leo, this isn't just about you. There's a child involved. A life you had a part in, whether you knew it or not. You can't just move on from that. Her words pierced him in ways that money, power, or pride never could. He clenched his fists, feeling a mixture of helplessness and rage. Rage at himself for the mistakes of the past. Rage at circumstances that had kept him from knowing. And rage at the vulnerability this tiny life forced him to confront. The baby stirred again, a quiet whimper breaking the tension. Rachel adjusted him in her arms, and Leo's gaze softened involuntarily. He wanted to reach out, to comfort, to bridge the distance, but he couldn't. Not yet. His pride, his fear of being too late, held him back like invisible chains. A knock at the door interrupted the moment. One of Leo's assistants peeked in, holding a holiday tray. "Mr. Vance, your guests will arrive soon. Is everything ready?" Leo's jaw tightened. He looked back at Rachel, whose expression mirrored his internal turmoil. The intrusion of the outside world, social expectations, appearances, obligations, added another layer of pressure. He couldn't yet let her see the raw, unguarded truth. He couldn't allow the room to become vulnerable. So he nodded curtly, dismissing the assistant, and the door closed with a soft click, leaving them in a bubble of fragile, tense silence. Rachel shifted slightly, rocking the baby, her gaze dropping to him. "We can't stay like this," she whispered. "Pretending this doesn't change anything won't help either of us." Leo finally exhaled, a long, shuddering breath, and turned to face her fully. The walls he had built around his heart trembled, yet he refused to let them crumble completely. I don't know if I can do this," he admitted, voice raw, almost unrecognizable even to himself. "I've spent so long pretending I was fine without you, without knowing." Rachel's expression softened, but she didn't move closer. She had to protect herself first, as much as she longed to let the past dissolve into forgiveness. "Neither of us knows yet," she said gently, "but we have to figure out what this means for him, and for us." She tilted the baby, kissing the small forehead lightly, a tender gesture that spoke volumes about the bond she already had formed. Leo's eyes followed the motion, a complex storm of regret, longing, and reluctant awe passing through him. He wanted to reach out. He wanted to be a part of this life, but fear whispered that he had already lost too much to deserve a second chance. For several minutes, they sat in silence. The soft ticking of a clock, the faint hum of the city, and the baby's occasional coo were the only sounds. And yet, the tension was palpable. A silent tug-of-war between desire and resistance, pride and vulnerability, past and present. The snow outside thickened, blanketing the city in quiet serenity, contrasting sharply with the storm of emotion inside. And in that contrast, both Leo and Rachel understood that resistance could only hold for so long. Sooner or later, the walls would crumble. Sooner or later, they would have to face what had been forced upon them by fate and choice alike. The soft chime of the doorbell echoed again, signaling the arrival of Leo's carefully curated Christmas guests. The penthouse, dazzling and full of life, felt suddenly suffocating to both Leo and Rachel. The festive lights, the laughter from the kitchen where staff hustled to arrange hors d'oeuvres, even the tinkling of holiday music. Every detail contrasted sharply with the storm raging quietly between them. "Looks like we're stuck together for a while," Leo said finally, forcing a lightness into his tone that felt unnatural, even to him. His eyes flicked to Rachel, who shifted the baby slightly in her arms, the small bundle resting comfortably against her chest. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. They had entered this evening trying to avoid confrontation, yet the universe had placed them in the same room, breathing the same air, with no escape. Rachel's gaze softened, though she masked it with a faint shrug. "Seems like it," she replied, her voice calm but carrying an unspoken challenge. She stepped carefully through the room, baby cradled, toward the living area where the first guests would arrive. Leo followed, forced by both circumstance and a growing sense of responsibility. Every step was deliberate, his posture controlled, but inside, every nerve screamed with tension. The closeness, the shared space, and the baby between them made the air electric. Charged with emotions neither wanted to acknowledge yet couldn't ignore. They settled on opposite sides of the living area, attempting to maintain some semblance of composure. Leo poured himself a drink, his hands slightly trembling, while Rachel adjusted the baby's blanket with quiet precision. Neither spoke, letting the silence stretch, knowing it was both a shield and a tether. A sudden crash from the kitchen startled them both. A tray dropped, glasses clinking, and for a brief moment, the carefully maintained illusion of control cracked. Rachel jumped instinctively, and Leo's hand shot out, not for her, but toward the baby, as if to shield him from harm. Their eyes met over the small bundle, and for a heartbeat, the room fell away. The outside world, expectations, appearances, pride, ceased to exist. "You're still careful," Leo said finally, voice low. "Everything you do, it's like you're guarding him, guarding yourself." Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line. "You think I'm the only one protecting someone?" she said softly, a subtle edge in her tone. "I see you, Leo. You've built walls around your life, your heart. But they're not as strong as you think. Not anymore." Leo stared at her, the weight of her words settling in. There was truth in them, undeniable and unsettling. His walls had served him well, until now. Until the baby, until her presence, until this night. The first guests arrived, their laughter ringing through the room. Social niceties followed. Handshakes, forced smiles, and polite greetings. But neither Leo nor Rachel engaged fully. The proximity forced them into subtle interaction. Exchanging glances across the room, shared acknowledgement of minor mishaps, and the quiet tension that simmered beneath every gesture. At one point, a guest approached Rachel, commenting on how lovely the baby was. She smiled politely, rocking him gently, but the stranger's curiosity pushed her into a quiet defensive mode. Leo, standing nearby, instinctively stepped closer, subtly positioning himself as a shield. He didn't touch her, didn't speak, but the movement spoke volumes. Protection, acknowledgement, a silent plea that somehow, despite everything, he mattered. The baby cooed, and the sound bridged the silent space between them. Leo's gaze softened involuntarily. Rachel noticed, and for a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to imagine what it might feel like to trust him again. She shook her head quickly, masking the thought. Trust was fragile, earned slowly, not given freely. Hours passed, the room gradually filling with warmth, conversation, and holiday cheer. Yet for Leo and Rachel, the world seemed to contract around the baby, the subtle exchanges, and the unspoken tension that neither dared fully confront. Forced proximity was teaching them something unavoidable. No matter how hard they resisted, their emotions were surfacing. The shared space, the intimate quiet moments between flurries of chaos, were chipping away at their defenses. Finally, as the last guests made their polite departures, Rachel found herself alone in the living room with Leo, the baby asleep in her arms. The quiet of the penthouse felt different now, not suffocating, but charged with possibility. Leo sank into the armchair opposite her, hands clasped, jaw tense. "You didn't have to come," he said quietly, almost a whisper, his voice rough with emotion. He stopped, swallowing hard. Pride battled vulnerability in his chest. "I didn't expect this for any of us." Rachel's gaze softened, and she tilted the baby gently. "Neither did I," she admitted. "But here we are. And for better or worse, we have to figure out how to live with this together, at least for tonight." Leo exhaled, a shuddering breath that seemed to release a fraction of the tension he had carried for years. "Together tonight," he echoed, almost as if testing the phrase, savoring the foreign warmth it brought to his chest. "Have you ever been forced to confront your past unexpectedly? What would you do in their shoes?" Comment Bilou. The night stretched on. The snow fell silently outside, blanketing the city in a soft glow. Inside, the forced proximity had accomplished what neither wanted to admit. It had opened the door to something fragile yet undeniable. The walls were still there, but cracks had begun to form. Cracks through which warmth, recognition, and the first hesitant stirrings of trust could seep. For the first time in years, Leo and Rachel realized that proximity was not just physical. It was emotional, unavoidable, and necessary. The next steps would be uncertain, terrifying, and deeply emotional. But for the first time, They were facing them together, and that was a start. The penthouse was quiet now, the last of the holiday guests gone, leaving only the soft glow of the Christmas lights. Outside, snow continued to fall, muffling the distant sounds of the city. Inside, Leo and Rachel sat across from each other, the baby sleeping peacefully in Rachel's arms, oblivious to the storm of emotions swirling around him. For a long moment neither spoke. Words felt inadequate, too blunt, too raw, too impossible. Yet the unspoken tension pressed insistently, demanding truth. Finally, Rachel's voice broke the silence. Leo, there's something you need to know. About him. About why things happened the way they did. Leo's heart tightened. He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. I'm listening, he said cautiously. His pride was still there, strong, but a flicker of vulnerability had begun to seep through the cracks. Rachel took a deep breath, her fingers tracing gentle circles on the baby's tiny back. After you left, I didn't know if I could go on, she admitted softly, voice trembling only slightly. I thought, maybe I'd lost you forever. And then, I found out I was pregnant. Leo's breath caught. The words hit him like a punch to the chest, sharp and undeniable. He had imagined many scenarios over the years, but this truth, this devastating, beautiful truth, was beyond any he had prepared for. I didn't tell you, Rachel continued, her eyes searching his, a mixture of fear and hope swirling within. I thought, maybe it was better this way. You had your life, your work, your pride. I wanted to protect you from everything. And I wanted to protect him from disappointment, from being hurt. Leo shook his head slowly, as if trying to absorb the weight of her confession. Protect me? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Rachel, I didn't even know. You were carrying my son, and I had no idea? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't want to hold you back. And you were young, reckless, trying to conquer the world. I didn't think there was room for me, or for him. The baby stirred, stretching his tiny arms. Leo's hand hovered uncertainly before he finally reached out to brush a delicate strand of hair from his son's forehead. The touch was electric, the connection immediate. A deep ache rooted itself in his chest. A combination of regret, longing, and an overwhelming desire to be present. Rachel watched him closely, noticing the tremor in his fingers, the way his eyes softened despite the storm within. I raised him on my own, she whispered. Every night, every smile, every tear, I carried it all. And I wanted you to know the truth. I wanted you to see him, see that part of us that still exists. Leo's throat tightened. His mind raced with memories, of her laughter, the warmth of her hands in his, the love he had once believed was lost forever. And now, it had a tangible presence, a tiny heartbeat cradled in her arms. I don't know what to say, he admitted, voice cracking. I thought I'd moved on. I thought I was done with the past. But now it's here. And it's undeniable. Rachel's lips curved into a bittersweet smile. It's undeniable, she agreed. And I don't expect you to know how to feel. I don't expect you to forgive yet. I just needed you to know. I couldn't keep hiding this part of our lives anymore. Leo's gaze dropped to the baby, awe and fear mingling in his eyes. He's incredible, he whispered. Just like you both. His hands brushed the small bundle carefully, almost reverently. And I missed it all. I missed every moment. Rachel swallowed the lump in her throat, tears threatening to spill. You didn't know, she said softly. You didn't have a choice. But now you do. For a long moment, silence enveloped them again, heavier this time with the weight of revelation. Snowflakes drifted lazily against the windows, painting the city in soft white, as if the world itself had slowed to give them space to breathe, to feel, to reconcile. Leo finally lifted his gaze, meeting hers with a vulnerability he had never shown in years. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted, voice trembling. I don't know if I can make up for all the time I lost, all the moments I wasn't there. Rachel shook her head slowly. You don't have to fix the past. It's gone. But we have tonight. We have now. And we can decide what comes next. The baby stirred again, tiny eyes opening. And in that innocent gaze, Leo felt a spark of hope, a fragile, tentative hope that maybe, just maybe, there could be a future. One built not on control or pride, but on connection, love, and the willingness to confront the past together. He exhaled slowly, tension easing from his shoulders just slightly. Then tonight, we start with tonight, he said, voice low but resolute. We'll figure it out together. Rachel nodded, a faint smile of relief brushing her lips. The cracks in their walls were growing, the first threads of trust beginning to weave between them. Fragile but unbreakable if nurtured. Have you ever discovered a secret that changed everything? How would you handle it? Share your thoughts below. The night stretched on, the penthouse bathed in soft light, the city outside quiet under its blanket of snow. For the first time in years, the past and present coexisted in the same room. Fragile yet undeniable, setting the stage for the next chapter of their story. A story of healing, vulnerability, and the slow, painstaking journey toward love at last. The penthouse felt different now. The tension from earlier had softened, replaced with something fragile. An uneasy truce between old wounds and new possibilities. Snow continued to fall outside, its quiet rhythm echoing the soft pace of their tentative connection. Leo sat on the edge of the couch, his eyes not leaving the baby, who yawned and cooed softly in Rachel's arms. He has your eyes, Leo said quietly, almost as if speaking them aloud would make them real. Rachel smiled faintly, a small, shy lift of her lips. And your stubbornness, she teased, nudging the baby gently so he wriggled and let out a tiny giggle. Leo chuckled softly, the sound unfamiliar even to him. A warm, human sound that had nothing to do with business deals or power. It broke through the remaining layers of ice around his heart. Stubborn, huh? He said, shaking his head. I hope he uses it wisely. Rachel's smile widened slightly. Or just like you, refuses to give up on the people he loves, she replied. Her voice gentle but filled with meaning. The baby stirred again, his tiny hand brushing against Leo's fingers. This time, Leo reached out fully, his hand hovering over the small, soft palm before resting lightly, almost reverently. A connection, silent but undeniable, passed between them. Leo felt a warmth he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Responsibility, love, hope. For a long moment, they simply existed together in silence, a fragile peace settling over the room. And then, as if needing to bridge the gap of years, Rachel spoke. I've missed this, she admitted quietly. Not just him, you. The way you used to laugh, the way you cared. I didn't know I still remembered it until tonight. Leo swallowed hard, feeling a lump rise in his throat. I missed it too, he said, voice low. I thought moving on would erase the past, but it hasn't. It never could. They shared a glance, one that spoke volumes more than words could. A memory, unspoken yet alive, lingered in the air. Late-night talks, whispered secrets, the warmth of hands held in the dark. And beneath it all, a shared love that neither had fully abandoned, only buried. The baby let out a soft coo, pulling them from the weight of memory. Rachel laughed quietly, a sound soft and musical, as she rocked him gently. Leo watched, captivated by her tenderness, the way her eyes softened as she focused on the small life she had nurtured alone. It was a side of her he had never fully appreciated before. Not just beauty or charm, but strength, patience, and love beyond measure. You're amazing with him, Leo said softly, his voice almost a whisper, his pride hidden behind vulnerability. Rachel shrugged lightly, blushing faintly. I have to be, she said. He's my life, my reason. And now maybe a reason for us too. Leo's gaze flicked to her, hope and hesitation warring in his expression. Maybe, he said, letting the word linger, uncommitted but genuine. Hours passed, and with each passing moment, the barriers between them chipped away. They talked quietly, cautiously, about small things at first, the baby's habits, the snow outside, the simple rituals of everyday life. Humor began to slip through the tension, subtle but real. At one point, the baby hiccuped, letting out a tiny wail. Rachel groaned softly, half exasperated, half amused, and Leo instinctively leaned forward. Let me, he said, gently bouncing the baby while Rachel rubbed her eyes in relief. I've had practice. Rachel laughed, a genuine laugh this time, light and musical. You've never done this before, she said, shaking her head. I learn fast, Leo replied, smiling softly as he handed the baby back into her arms. Their hands brushed for a fleeting second, and neither pulled away. The penthouse seemed to shrink around them, focusing on the three of them, Leo, Rachel, and the tiny life that had forced their paths together. Snow continued to fall outside, a quiet, consistent rhythm, mirroring the gentle thaw in their hearts. Later, as the night deepened, Rachel leaned back against the couch, baby nestled safely against her chest. Leo settled beside her, careful to leave space yet close enough that their shoulders brushed. Words were unnecessary. The warmth of proximity, the quiet understanding, and the shared responsibility for this new life were enough. "I never imagined this," Rachel admitted, voice soft. "I never thought we'd be here again. And yet here we are." Leo's hand rested lightly over hers, a tentative anchor. "Neither did I," he said quietly. "But maybe this is the start of something real. Something better." Rachel smiled faintly, the faintest glow of hope flickering in her eyes. "Better, or at least honest," she replied, glancing down at the baby, then back at him. "And that's a start. Have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone you thought you lost? Comment below how you would start over." The room settled into a soft, fragile peace. Laughter from the baby, quiet conversation, and the warmth of human connection filled the space. The night was far from resolved, but for the first time, Leo and Rachel experienced something neither had anticipated. A glimmer of hope, a fragile bond, and the undeniable pull of love. Unexpected, complicated, but real. The snow outside fell heavier, blanketing the city in white, while inside, hearts thawed and walls crumbled slowly. Tonight was only the beginning, but the first threads of connection were woven, fragile yet strong enough to hold if nurtured carefully. The warmth of the penthouse felt fragile that evening, like snowflakes threatening to melt under harsh sunlight. Leo and Rachel had spent hours sharing quiet moments, tentative laughter, and subtle touches. The baby slept peacefully between them, and for a fleeting moment, it felt as though they could begin to heal the wounds of the past. But life, as it often does, refused to pause for fragile beginnings. A sudden knock at the door shattered the calm. Leo's assistant entered, her expression tight with urgency. "Mr. Vance, there's someone here asking to see you. They claim it's urgent." Leo frowned, tension immediately returning. "Who?" She hesitated, then finally muttered. "It's an old colleague from before." Rachel's gaze shifted sharply. She instinctively tightened her hold on the baby, her heart beating faster. There had been too many surprises tonight already, too many truths revealed. She didn't need another one. Leo's jaw clenched, his posture stiffening. "Send them in," he said finally. He rose, smoothing his suit, masking the storm inside. The door opened, and a sharply dressed man stepped inside. His smile was confident, practiced, but his eyes carried a spark of something dangerous. "Leo," he said smoothly. "It's been a while." Rachel instinctively bristled. Though she remained seated, the baby cradled against her chest. Leo's eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" he asked, voice clipped. The man's gaze flicked briefly to Rachel, lingering longer than necessary. "I need to talk business," he replied, but the subtext was clear. He knew about her, about the baby, and he intended to use it. Leo's face darkened. The familiar surge of anger, pride, and fear of loss collided inside him. He had fought hard to control his life, to create a world where he could manage outcomes. But tonight, control slipped through his fingers. "I don't think this is the time," Leo said cautiously. The man's smirk widened. "You'll make time whether you like it or not." "And Leo," he paused, eyes flicking to Rachel and the baby. "Some truths are better left buried. But I see you've already failed at that." The words hit Rachel like ice water. Her hand instinctively covered the baby, heart racing. She felt a surge of fear, protectiveness, and anger all at once. She looked at Leo, searching for reassurance, for protection. But in that moment, his own doubt mirrored hers. Leo's voice rose, sharp, dangerous. "Enough. This ends now." But the man only smiled. "Careful, Leo. Some things don't end the way you hope." He turned on his heel and left, leaving a chill in the room that lingered like a shadow. Rachel let out a shaky breath, and Leo sank into the armchair heavily, running a hand over his face. The fragile warmth of the evening evaporated in seconds, replaced by a cold reminder of the world outside their bubble. I can't believe this, Rachel whispered, tears threatening. Why does it feel like the past keeps following us? Leo's eyes softened as he looked at her, the baby, and the reality of what they shared. It's not just the past, he said quietly, voice heavy. It's everything we didn't face before. All the choices we made, all the lies we told ourselves. He paused, struggling with his words. I wanted tonight to be a beginning. But now, Rachel shook her head, voice trembling. Now it's a nightmare. I thought we were finally moving forward. I let myself feel, and now. She stopped abruptly, clutching the baby to her chest. I can't risk losing him. I can't risk losing you again. Leo rose, slowly moving closer, but she instinctively leaned back, putting space between them. Rachel, it's me. I'm not going anywhere, he said, voice firm yet vulnerable. I will protect you. I will protect him. I promise. But you're shutting me out. Her eyes glistened with tears. I can't trust promises anymore. Not after everything. Not after the past. Leo's chest tightened, a mixture of anger, despair, and heartbreak swirling inside him. So that's it? After tonight, after everything, we just walk away. Rachel's gaze dropped, silent, torn. She loved him still. This truth was undeniable, but fear had hardened around her heart. Fear that history would repeat itself, that he could disappear, that their fragile new bond would shatter completely. The baby stirred, fussing softly. Rachel's voice softened as she whispered, he needs stability. I need to know we're safe. And right now, I don't feel safe. Leo knelt beside her, eyes locking with hers, desperation evident. I can give you that. I will give you that. But you have to let me try. Don't push me away before I even have the chance to prove myself. Rachel shook her head, the tears spilling now, uncontrolled. I don't know if I can, she admitted, voice breaking. I don't know if I can forgive and trust you fully. Not yet. The room fell into a tense silence. The baby's soft whimpering was the only sound, a fragile reminder of what was at stake. Leo sat back, chest heaving, feeling the weight of the shatter point pressing down on him. The fragile bond they had been building teetered dangerously, threatening to crumble entirely. Outside, the snow fell heavier, each flake a cold echo of the tension inside. Leo and Rachel sat in the quiet aftermath of the intrusion. Hearts aching, defenses up, unsure if they could recover from this blow. The shatter point had arrived. Trust fractured, vulnerability exposed, love challenged. And yet, beneath the despair, a quiet, stubborn ember remained. Neither could deny the connection that had begun to form. They were both wounded, both scared, and both painfully aware of what they stood to lose. Tonight had tested them, broken the fragile peace, and thrown their emotions into chaos. But the story wasn't over. The choice, to fight for love or surrender to fear, was still theirs. And deep down, both knew that the next move would define everything. The penthouse was silent. Snow fell thickly outside, muffling the city, leaving the world in soft white stillness. Inside, only the gentle breathing of the baby filled the room. A fragile heartbeat anchoring both Leo and Rachel in the present. Rachel sat by the window, the baby resting in her arms, his tiny chest rising and falling in rhythm with her own slow, calming breaths. She stared at the city lights blurred through the snow, thoughts spinning, memories colliding. Pride warred with longing. Fear wove through her chest like icy tendrils. She wanted to run, to protect the life she had built. And yet every instinct whispered that Leo could belong in it too. He watched her quietly from across the room, hands clasped, jaw tight, emotion teetering dangerously between control and surrender. He had spent years convincing himself that love at last was a myth, that he could move on, succeed, and remain untouchable. Yet here, with her and the living proof of their past cradled in her arms, every carefully constructed wall quivered. I don't know if I can do this, Rachel whispered finally, voice low, almost a murmur to herself. I don't know if I can trust him, or myself. Leo swallowed hard, moving closer but pausing, not wanting to force her decision. I understand, he said quietly. I've made mistakes, huge ones. I've been selfish, blind, and proud. I know I don't deserve anything. But I want to try. I want to be here for you and for him. Rachel's fingers traced gentle patterns on the baby's blanket, a shield against the vulnerability rising inside her. "I've raised him on my own," she said softly. "I thought I could do it without ever needing you again. But now, seeing you here, seeing you with him, I don't know if I can ignore what I feel." Leo's gaze softened, the raw truth of his emotions shining through. "I don't want to rush you. I just can't hide anymore. I've spent too long pretending I was fine without you. Pretending I could move on when a part of me has always belonged here, with you." Her eyes met his, searching, hesitant, heart-pounding. Every scar, every fear, every memory of abandonment rose up, threatening to push her away. And yet, she felt something she hadn't dared feel in years. The pull of a love that had never truly ended. "I'm scared," she admitted, voice breaking. "Scared that history will repeat itself. Scared that I'll let you in, and you'll leave again. Scared that he'll lose you too." Leo closed the distance, careful, deliberate. He knelt beside her, eyes locked on hers, tone steady but full of emotion. "I can't erase the past. I can't promise I'll be perfect. But I can promise this. I will not walk away again. Not from you. Not from him. Not from us. If you give me the chance, I'll spend every day proving it." The words, simple yet charged with raw honesty, hung in the air. Rachel's heart raced, mind spinning with doubt, fear, and longing. She looked down at the baby, his tiny eyes fluttering open, and a soft smile tugged at her lips. The life they had created together was real, undeniable, and waiting for them to embrace it. For a long moment, she stayed silent, weighing her pride against her desire, fear against hope. The past loomed, threatening to anchor her in pain. Yet the present, the warmth of his hand near hers, the softness in his eyes, the undeniable pull of shared love, beckoned her toward trust. Finally, she exhaled, a long, shuddering breath. "Leo, I don't know if we'll get this right. I don't know if it'll be easy." "I know," he said, voice steady, warm. "But we'll try. Together. That's all we can do." She nodded slowly, feeling the weight of years lift fractionally. Her fingers brushed against his, tentative but deliberate. The small gesture, a touch, a connection, spoke louder than words ever could. The baby stirred again, tiny fingers reaching toward Leo's hand. Without hesitation, Leo lifted his, letting the small fingers curl around his own. A bridge, delicate yet undeniable, was formed, not just between father and child, but between two hearts battered by time, circumstance, and fear. Rachel's lips curved into a soft, genuine smile, tears brimming but not falling. "Okay," she whispered. "We'll try. We'll figure it out together." Leo's eyes glistened, a rare, unguarded vulnerability shining through. "Together," he echoed, his voice low but resolute. He leaned in slightly, close but careful, giving her space while signaling his willingness to bridge the emotional distance. The penthouse felt warmer now. The snow outside no longer a silent barrier, but a gentle embrace. The shatter point had passed, and they had chosen vulnerability over pride, love over fear. The night stretched ahead, uncertain yet full of potential, their hearts tentatively opening to the promise of connection, hope, and redemption. Have you ever had to choose vulnerability over pride for someone you love? Share your story in the comments below. In that quiet, fragile moment, Leo and Rachel understood something fundamental. Love at last wasn't about perfection. It was about choice. About showing up, over and over, despite fear, doubt, and past pain. And tonight, they had made that choice. The penthouse was quiet in a way that felt full of possibility. Snow continued to blanket the city outside. The soft glow of holiday lights reflecting in the windows, painting the room in warmth. Inside, the baby slept peacefully in Rachel's arms, his tiny chest rising and falling in rhythm with the calming breaths of the two adults who had spent years circling each other, lost and longing. Leo stood by the window for a moment, watching the snow fall silently. His mind traced the path of their shared past, each heartbreak, each misunderstanding, every moment of pride that had kept them apart. And yet tonight, every regret and every tear felt like preparation, leading them to this fragile, beautiful peace. Rachel sat on the couch, the baby nestled safely against her chest. She glanced up at Leo, seeing the man who had once been the center of her world, now standing there with a quiet strength tempered by vulnerability. "Leo," she whispered, voice soft but sure. He turned, eyes glistening, and walked slowly toward her, every step deliberate. "Rachel, we made it," he said simply, a smile tugging at his lips despite the gravity in his eyes. "We're here. Together." She returned the smile. A mix of relief, joy, and a touch of awe. "I think we finally are," she said, tilting her head slightly as the baby shifted in her arms, tiny fingers curling around hers. "I never thought we'd get here. Not after everything." Leo knelt in front of her, carefully reaching out to touch the baby's cheek. The tiny life that had been the catalyst for this reunion now became the anchor of their hope. "We're here," he repeated, voice low, reverent. "And we have him. He's our reminder of what we can build together." The baby stirred slightly, cooing softly, and Rachel laughed quietly, a sound full of warmth and tenderness. Leo's hand brushed hers as they shared a fleeting moment of contact, the years of separation melting into the quiet space between them. "I want us to be honest from now on," Leo said, voice steady but soft. "No walls. No running. We face life together, whatever comes." Rachel nodded, tears glistening in her eyes but a genuine smile on her lips. "No running," she agreed. "Together we'll figure it out. For him and for us." The penthouse felt alive in a way it hadn't before. The lights seemed brighter, the snow softer, the silence comfortable rather than heavy. Leo leaned closer, careful, and whispered, "I never want to lose you again. You him us." Rachel's fingers intertwined with his, holding on as though letting go was impossible. "You won't," she whispered back. "Not this time. We'll be different. We'll choose love, even when it's hard." Outside, the city shimmered under the snow. Inside, a quiet miracle had occurred. Hearts that had been broken, guarded, and weary had opened once again, tentatively but fully enough to allow love to grow. Leo smiled softly, lifting his gaze to the ceiling for a moment, letting the weight of years release in a deep breath. "This is our Christmas," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Not perfect, but ours. And I wouldn't trade it for anything." Rachel rested her head against his shoulder, feeling the steady warmth of his presence. The baby stirred again, tiny fingers reaching toward Leo's hand. Leo lifted his hand slowly, letting their child wrap his fingers around it. A silent promise passed between them. Love, protection, and the commitment to face whatever the world might bring, together. Leo whispered softly to the baby, "We'll keep you safe, little one. Always." And Rachel echoed, smiling through tears, "Always." The circle was complete. The central event of arrival and shock from Act 2 now transformed into protection, love, and belonging. Hours passed. Snow blanketed the city in soft white, and the penthouse glowed with quiet warmth. Leo and Rachel sat together, their hands intertwined, hearts finally aligned. They had survived misunderstandings, fear, and the ghosts of the past. They had chosen vulnerability, love, and connection. In that quiet night, they understood the truth. Love at last was not sudden or easy. It was chosen, nurtured, and earned. And tonight they had chosen it together. The baby cooed again, tiny arms stretching toward both of them. Leo lifted him gently, holding him close, and whispered softly to Rachel, "This is our beginning." She smiled, the weight of fear lifted, the warmth of hope in her chest. "Our beginning," she agreed, leaning close to kiss his cheek softly. And in that single gesture, years of pain, distance, and longing melted away, leaving only what truly mattered: love, family, and the promise of tomorrow. Snowflakes swirled outside, the city quiet and magical under the glow of the Christmas lights. Inside, Leo, Rachel, and their baby were home, not just in the penthouse but in each other's hearts, where they belonged. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. Your time, your support, and your presence here mean more than words can say. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or kept you watching, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss a new upload. Until next time, stay blessed, stay strong, and keep believing in love. See you in the next story.